And away we go. He is Marc Malusis.
Right.
Yep, I am Keith Irizarry. Moose, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Anything going on in the world of sports today?
Yeah, I think Tom Brady retired.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about your 3-leg hockey parlay.
Yeah, well, we hit that as well, which was great. And then you paired it up with, and you partnered it up, it added the Luka triple-double, and away you go.
Jokic triple-double.
Jokic triple-double.
Ended up going for plus 750. Gotta love that. Yeah. Talk about stealing our shine. Like Tom Brady. All right. Can I start off by this? And I know we're going to do this for real, but Tom Brady, like, yeah, you're the greatest of all time. And yeah, blah, 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 blah. We nailed a plus 750 parlay. Come on.
We did. That's great. It's unbelievable.
Let us have some shine. Sean Payton signs with the Broncos or agrees to be the Broncos head coach. There's trades going on there.
Well, how about the hockey? Yeah, I mean, because you mentioned it to kick it off. How about the hockey first and foremost?
My God. The text I sent you?
Well, I mean, yeah. Number one is the Kings are leading that game 4-1 at one point in time. I'm like, this is over. I'm getting an email from Matt saying, I'm looking forward to your 3-leg parlay tonight in the NHL. I'm like, I think that's going to be a loser. Keith's texted me. We're in a group chat, you, me, and Ernie, about it. And I'm like, yeah, that's not going to go well. And then at one point in time in the third period, every single one of those games was tied.
Yeah, I gave
Montreal came back and tied Ottawa with like 5 minutes to go. Carolina and the Kings were tied up at 4. Columbus was tied up with Washington. Washington wins in overtime. Carolina wins in overtime. And the Senators score with under 2 minutes to go in regulation. And we hit our 3-leg parlay. 2 overtime winners. I'm like, it could have, like, that was the ultimate sweat.
Yes.
Like, it really is. Like, you're sitting there and you're like, oh my God, like, there is nothing here that's going to be easy. I'm like, can I really come out with a winner with all 3 games? And it happened. Lady Luck was on the Malusis side last night.
And then I got to tell you, so I gave up, right? I'm like, all right, this is over. We get the win on that 3 legs. I wasn't staying up for the Nuggets game last night. I was a little bit tired last night. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to bed. Woke up this morning, go like this with my phone. He did it. Let's go! Jody was already awake, so I was allowed to just scream and yell mouse.
Well, I can understand. Yeah, that's it. Of course, Jokic gets your the triple-double, and away you go.
Yeah.
It was a good night.
It was a good night. Not a good night for the Knicks.
No.
Not a good night for RJ Barrett, who gets benched pretty much the entire fourth quarter.
Didn't meet with the media after the game either.
Not a crowning evening for the New York Knicks. It was a crowning evening for LeBron James. We'll get to that as well. But I guess we start with the 45-year-old man, Tom Brady. Scale of 1 to 10. How shocked are you that he announced his retirement?
I mean, I guess in hindsight, I guess not very. I'm surprised. I thought he was going to come back and play. I did. I mean, like he sacrificed it all. He sacrificed his marriage, time with his family, all of that. Came back this year. It was a disastrous season by all stretches of the imagination. The Buccaneers didn't. I know they made the playoffs, but they made the playoffs because they were the best of a really bad bunch in their respective division. When you look at the NFC South, so I just the competitive nature of him, I am surprised by that. But he's also gone through a ton this season. So can I be completely stunned by that very fact? I guess not. I'm surprised he announced it the way that he did on social media, where he's on some beach, clouds out, and he's basically saying, I had my emotional goodbye last year, which he did. In that piece, what was it, the Players Tribune, or I forget where he released it. I think it was the Players Tribune, where then everybody and their mother was looking at who he thanked and who he didn't thank in that respective piece that he wrote. And he just says, I mean, listen, he's got a 10-year, $375 million contract coming his way from Fox to be the lead analyst for Fox Sports. Here's the thing. Here's the interesting thing. Have they announced it yet? It's a Fox Super Bowl. Is he going to be part of something?
Oh, I think he has to be part of something now.
No doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, I would imagine that Tom Brady is going to be unveiled Super Bowl Sunday for Fox out there in Glendale, Arizona.
You know what just dawned on me? Gronk has been working for Fox, correct?
Correct.
Like, how is there not going to be a Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski television show now? on Fox.
Yeah, I mean, who's
like
watching?
I'm sure there must be some brainchild behind the scenes is thinking about that right now. Brady and
Yeah,
Gronk.
I mean, I think I would imagine if you're Tom Brady, yeah, I mean, maybe you might be right. I don't know what exactly they're going to watch with that. I imagine I'm curious to see exactly what the role for Brady is going to be. It seemed to be kind of foregone conclusion that he was going to be the guy with Kevin Burkhardt as the lead analyst. I'll be honest with you. I think Greg Olson might be the best color analyst in the National Football League right now.
I concur. I like 1,000% agree, but I know you're in the middle of saying something. I just want to say I so much agree with you. I think Olson has been fantastic, and for all the Romo love that Romo got when he first came into it, I think Olson's even better.
Yeah, I think Olson's better. I'm with you. So what do you do if you're Fox now? I mean, you're not going to put Tom Brady on the number 2 team. You're not going to put him in a 3-team booth with Burkhardt, Olson, and Tom Brady. Exactly. Then what do you do with Brady if he's not going to be part of that lead team? I mean, maybe you make it a 3-man booth. I don't know. It'd be a little bit strange. You'd be battling for airtime. You're spending a lot of money for Tom Brady. Listen, I don't think analysts, and I think it's going to be more than him just being an NFL analyst for Fox. He's going to be doing kind of a brand manager for Fox Sports. So there's going to be a lot of things that Brady's going to do if indeed he decides to continue through on his commitment and sign up for 10 years with Fox Sports. I mean, who knows now? It's been a kind of a helter-skelter kind of a year for Tom Brady.
And Better Boss just wrote, I'm stunned just because of what he seemingly gave up for coming back last year. Thought for sure he'd play again to justify. And what you mean there is obviously essentially gave up his marriage. And again, for us not being on the inside circle of what his marriage was, I have no idea if he really gave up his marriage because of coming back. Were they happy? Were they not happy? I don't know any of that.
I can imagine the issues ran deeper than just him playing football.
I think so. Exactly. So, and that's why I try not to dive into like the TMZ world of that too much, but he's got children. And if you want to think about it from a different standpoint, Moose, imagine you and Donna were divorced and you guys are co-parenting, and it meant now working harder or being around to see your children a little bit more. You might want to try to be around to see your children. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. He's also 45 years old. And for as good as he was on the field, and he still was 3rd in the NFL in passing yardage and led the NFL in passing attempts, there may just come a time where you're like, I could do it. I'm not sure I need to do it.
Right. Yeah, true. I mean, yeah. I mean, I think the hardest thing is never being able to have that feel again.
Right. Because barring something crazy and him coming back because a quarterback gets hurt and he comes out of retirement again, this is more than likely it. I don't think we're seeing him unretire again, although maybe we'll play this and it'll be freezing takes. I don't think that we're going to see it again. But you're right. Like, this is it. This is like, if you stopped broadcasting tomorrow, you can still broadcast next year. You could broadcast in 10 years from now, like provided someone wanted to hire you.
Yes, that is true. You and I are nowhere close to retirement, but yeah,
no,
that is true. You're 100% right about that. But yeah, you could come back and do your thing. So
yeah, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah,
Deutsch, you're stuck with us.
Yeah, and also I listen. There's no debate anymore about Brady or Montana. He set records that are going to be very difficult, if not impossible, to go out there and pass. People get annoyed by Tom Brady. I think we have to have an appreciation for the commitment that it takes to get your body ready to go compete against guys that are at times half your age, in the National Football League, that are bigger, faster, stronger, and you doing it at 43, 44, now 45 years old. And to be able to go out there and do that, it's remarkable. The commitment with all the success. We often see at times, regardless of industry, you have a fair amount of success. You have a lot of money coming in. You're wealthy, whatever it might be. You're getting all the accolades. You at times, the drive, the hunger, the passion of the NFL draft, about the commitment, the motor, all those things. Does this player want to be great? Those were some of the concerns about Kayvon Thibodeau when he was coming out of Oregon that some NFL teams did have. Was he more concerned about his brand, or was he more concerned about being an all-time great football player? Like, those are the things that you think about. So just as you look at Brady and you might be annoyed by him, you might be a Jet fan and you might say, I can't stand him, or, I'm tired of hearing about him. I mean, he's not going anywhere, but let's just kind of all appreciate the time, the effort, the commitment it takes for him to continue to want to be as successful as he did, even with all the success and the accolades that he had, which is, a testament to his mindset, a testament to his drive, to his hunger, to his competitive nature. Because, Keith, we see it, we see it all the time. There are guys all over the place that when you have a fair amount of success, some guys don't exactly continue to push forward. They kind of rest on what they've accomplished.
23 years, 7 times he won the Super Bowl, 5 times a Super Bowl MVP, leader in like every QB statistic in his career: yards, touchdowns, completions, wins, going to Super Bowls, oldest player to win an MVP, only player to beat all 32 NFL teams. It is crazy what he did in his career. And what was also impressive is, all right, so obviously, like, the next spin is going to be like Mahomes is going for another Super Bowl. Can he be the next one? But there's Burrow, there's Herbert, there's Allen, there's all these other QBs that are in his way. Brady had the same thing. Like, for all you want to say that Brady was the greatest of this generation, and he was the greatest of all time, and he was, like, Peyton was in his generation, Breeze was in his generation, Rodgers was in his generation. Like, he had a veritable gauntlet of other great first ballot Hall of Fame QBs, Ben Roethlisberger, like, go on and on and on down the list. And he was able to, save for Eli, beat every single one of them. And I love that, by the way, on social media today, all the Giants fans puffing out their chests. At least Brady retires, and the Giants and Eli are still 2-0 against him.
Yeah, they are. So, and that you'll never take it away, but Eli will also never be in the conversation of what Brady accomplished too. And it's kind of it's great for if you're a Giant fan and no one's taking away those Super Bowls. But I think for Brady, though, I think everything that and in the end, he went out, I guess, on his terms. I mean, I never thought he was washed. We talked about this, a couple of days ago, Keith. Like, Tom Brady could still play if he wanted to line up and play next year. The arm is still healthy. The commitment, you would imagine would still be there. The competitive nature, he just doesn't obviously want to do it anymore. So now he's retiring on his terms. Physically, he could still go out there and play the position. That's not an issue. And there would have been an opening for him, whether it be Tampa, whether it be Vegas. We joked around about, the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, there would have been an opportunity for him to play in the National Football League next year and be a starter. I think Tom Brady would have played really, really well if he decided to do it. But as we've all found out this morning, he's not. And, it's a little sad. I mean, I got to be honest with you. And I'm not a Patriot fan. I think when you see all-time greats and it's over, you'll feel, when it was over for Larry, Magic, and Michael, when it was over for Peyton Manning, when it was over for Lawrence Taylor, when
Kobe.
It's over for Kobe Bryant, when you see all-time greats and that's the last time you're going to see them do what you enjoyed watching them do, the game's not the same. Their impact on the game is unquestioned. Their imprint, what they've accomplished unquestioned. We'll be talking about Tom Brady from now until, our last breath on earth. But the game is no longer the same exact thing. Not saying that it's going to be progressively worse. We all love the National Football League, but it's also a little bit sad because I think we have an appreciation for, as I mentioned a couple minutes ago, just what Brady was able to do as a player, and his presence in the NFL made the NFL stronger.
Assuming he's really done, there's some sort of like finite feeling about it, right? And I hate to equate this to, like when someone passes away, but that's, we had loss in our family over the last couple of years, and it was the first time that I really felt that finite feeling of you can't make that phone call to that person, you can't go see that person again, right? I'm not trying to get morbid, but I'm just making a comparison here from a sports standpoint. From a sports standpoint, if Brady never plays again, there's that finite feeling that we sit here today going, wow, like we'll never see this guy throw a football again, this guy take the field again the way that he did. And was Brady the best QB in the NFL this year? No. Was he top 10 in the NFL? Maybe. I don't know. That's for you guys to decide. But every single time he took the field, whether you were kind of like Moose, like I'm done with the Buccaneers, and that's fine, right? And like we all kind of were done with just the Buccaneers in general, the way they were playing. We still all paid attention because Tom was out there and you never knew what he could do. How about the loss to the Cowboys in the playoffs? There were a lot of people picking the Buccaneers. Moose, what was the one reason people were picking the Buccaneers? Were they the better team? No, exactly.
That's it.
So we're all going to miss Tom Brady. And I watched all the stuff all morning long on ESPN and Fox and all the other networks and our stuff on Better Sports Network. And as I combed through, every single person that either played with Tom Brady or covered him closely talked about his hard work, right? The work ethic, but also how great of a teammate he was to everybody. And I think that's pretty cool too, because there are other players that have retired that, again, just like people passing away, you don't want to talk ill about them. But when they retire, it's kind of like, usually you might be, oh, he was a great player. You always know if they were a great teammate, because the great teammate thing is one of the first things people say. And that is what people are saying today about Brady.
Yeah, and I think he was. I think he demanded a lot of his teammates, and I think they respected for that. I think if you demand a lot of your teammates, you demand a lot of yourself. And I think when you look at Brady, I don't think if you are one of his teammates, just have a conversation. If you're one of his teammates and you look at it, he was completely committed. So just like Michael demanded a lot of his teammates, just like Kobe demanded a lot of his teammates, just like you bring up those examples, two that kind of pop to the top of my head, where they might not always be funny, happy, great, this and that, but they're demanding because they want to be great. And they want you to be great, and they want the team to be great. So I think for Tom, I think sometimes you saw him, screaming at his offensive line on the bench, getting into it with these. He did with Bill O'Brien on the sideline during that game down in Washington. Remember where he threw the interception in the red zone? Like, there are just things when you look at Brady over the course of his career that people have pointed out. Well, that's the competitor in Brady. Like that just is where, he expects, he likes to do things kind of the Patriot way. And he understands what it means to be all in. I think he reached a point where mentally, probably he's not ready to completely commit to that and go through it again, regardless of team, regardless of opportunity. At 45, he's done.
So 45 years old, he's
an amazing
done.
player. I mean, you're never going to see one. You're never, think about it. I mean, in our rundown, we have, just, 23 years, 7 times.
And 7 times he won it, right? 10 times he was there. That's the other thing, too.
Lost twice to the Giants, lost to Nick Foles and the Eagles. So 7-time Super Bowl champion, 5-time Super Bowl MVP. The NFL leader in career quarterback wins, quarterback regular season wins, quarterback playoff wins, Super Bowl most valuable player awards, as well as being the only Super Bowl MVP for 2 different franchises, most passing yards, touchdowns, completions, wins as a quarterback, game started, most division titles, Pro Bowl appearances. Oldest player to win an NFL MVP, only player to beat all 32 NFL teams.
I was wrong on the. I know I jotted that down in our little cheat sheet. There are other players that have beaten the 32 teams.
But it's remarkable. I mean, even put that one aside. I mean, we could all look at the Pro Bowl and raise our eyebrows after the fact that Derek Carr is
Tyler Huntley is in.
Tyler Huntley is now a Pro Bowler for the Baltimore Ravens.
Legend of Tyler Huntley.
They're all injury replacements. I don't know. It's just he set marks that will probably never be surpassed in our lifetime.
Right, and you know what I love, by the way, is that you said probably, because LeBron James is on the precipice of passing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for the all-time scoring leader, and a lot of people thought that was never going to be broken. It's going to be broken. He's 89 points away. So I don't know.
It's also different. Like you bring up that example, and I did a Moose on the Loose last night on LeBron, and he put on a show at the Madison Square Garden, had a triple-double as the Lakers took down the Knicks. And did
you talk about me and how much of a LeBron apologist I am? I missed your Moose on the Loose last night, so I'll just assume you did.
No, I did not. It was a frustrating law.
You imagine you just sneakily put in there, and Keith loves LeBron. And
yeah. My co-host on Better Sports Network, Keith Irizarry, is a complete LeBron apologist, by the way. Let me move on. But let's also look at it like it's also not one and the same. I'm not trying to take away from LeBron James, but Kareem also went to college. LeBron went into the NBA at 18. They changed the rules in the NBA because of Kareem's dominance down. Like, there's just things like not everything is one and the same. I'm not taking away anything that LeBron. Listen, he's been in the league 20 years. It's remarkable. Kareem, I think, in his final year in the NBA, and he was an old man at that time. Kareem scored, I think, like 784 points in his final year in the NBA. It's remarkable what LeBron is on the precipice of accomplishing. There's no doubt about it. But it's also
final year, Kareem averaged 10.1 points per game, 4.5 boards. His final 3 years, it was 17.5, 14.5, 10.1 points per game.
Right. LeBron right now at 38. And how old was Kareem? 42?
In his final year, Kareem age in 1988. I don't feel like doing math. 41 years old.
41. Right. So he's 41. So, LeBron's 3 years younger. I mean, that's obviously the whole high school thing that we're talking about. The fact that LeBron went right out of high school. Listen, I'm not trying to poo-poo it. It's amazing. I never thought anybody would be able to carry on the dominance. LeBron at 38 is averaging 30 points per game. Average in the NBA, though, is up across the board when you look at it. And he's an unbelievable talent. The biggest thing about LeBron that deserves a ton of credit for him is, Keith, we've seen guys with high expectations, whether it be baseball, whether it be football, whether it be NBA, whether it be the National Hockey League. They're going to be this. They're going to be that. He's going to be the next Larry Bird. He's going to be the next Magic Johnson. He's going to be the next Michael Jordan. He's going to be the next, Wayne Gretzky. All these things that we see over the course of time. LeBron was thought to be that at 15, and he is. Like, that to me says it all, because not just to those that picked it out, but it's just a credit to him to be able to accomplish everything he's accomplished. I understand he's not 6-0 in the NBA Finals, and I understand that people could look at it. Is he the great shot maker at the end of games like Michael? We could all look at what LeBron isn't. Let's appreciate for what LeBron James is, and his ability to play at the level he has played at and carry that consistency over the span of 20 years. To win NBA titles with the Cavs, the Heat, and the Los Angeles Lakers, to be a dominant defensive player as well, and to be one of those guys, as we were talking about Tom Brady, as we bring this conversation full circle. I'm sorry I'm going on here for a little bit.
No, you're good.
He's one of those guys, Keith, just like Michael, just like Kobe, just like Tom Brady. LeBron is one of those guys that demands a hell of a lot out of his teammates. Just ask Kyrie Irving that. That's why Irving couldn't wait to get out of Cleveland and demanded the trade to Boston, because he couldn't take it anymore of what LeBron was asking. So, when you look at those all-time greats, not only do they hold themselves up to a high standard, probably a higher standard than you and I ever even think about, of what they want to be and what they want to accomplish, and are continually goal-oriented in order to try to accomplish that. But they also demand a lot of their teammates, because they want them to be great as well, and to raise the level of the entire team, realizing they can't do it all by themselves.
Just to come back and circle back to my love for LeBron James, he's going to be the all-time leading scorer. He is 4th all-time in assists. He is 32nd in rebounds all-time, and he's number 9 in steals. So yeah, he's great. He's awesome.
Yeah,
we love him.
Yes,
we love him.
Yes. Want to get to betting on brand?
We're doing it early today, huh?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. An early betting on brand. We're loaded with guests, by the way, too, today.
We are loaded with guests.
Pat Perry, first time he's going to join the show. Tour Junkies. We normally have David Barnett. Pat Perry is going to join us in like 10 minutes. Dylan Robbins, CEO of Lucra, going to join us at around 11. Byron Lambert, Rosterwatch, Angel Fire, going to join us around 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. So we are locked and loaded, Moose.
Yeah, I love it. Jessica, good morning. How are you?
Doing awesome. How about you guys?
We're doing well. What do you like tonight, Jessica?
I don't know. We got a bunch of good plays, but I got to say that I grew up with Tom Brady because I'm originally from New England. So that was very interesting to see. I'm curious if it stands, but what is going to stand is that we got a lot of good opportunities today. So when I'm looking at what I'm seeing here, Barstool, I know it's not in every state, but if you go to New Jersey, it is available in that state. They have a lot of mispriced lines, in my opinion, for Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. Kind of interesting what you can do there. So one thing I see that's interesting to me is Oklahoma State alternate first half spread, -2.5 for the Cowboys, +205. I think that overstates it a lot. Look, is it likely to happen? No, not necessarily. But I think it's a decent opportunity when you can get +200 relative to only something that's 3, right? When you consider what the default first spread half is, basically, it's going to be a lot better than that, essentially. So I'm all in favor of that there. I think there's.
So are you on that one though? You're chasing the value of the +200 more than the team, correct? Am I right about that?
Yeah. It's all relative values. I will say this a lot. I don't actually bet teams. I don't bet players. I'll bet lines. Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
All right, beautiful. What else?
Yeah. So let's see. So we got a few of these that are bouncing around that are kind of interesting in my opinion. If you can get them, like Furman versus Chattanooga was kind of interesting. See what that's at DraftKings because I'm curious because I've been seeing a lot of things that are interesting for the under on that in my opinion, and I know DraftKings is everywhere.
You want the Furman game? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, Furman, correct. Yeah.
All right, I'm pulling it up quickly for you. Furman, Chattanooga. What number do you want?
I have a lot of them set up.
Well, no. What am I looking for in the Chattanooga Furman game?
The total.
The total set at 153 -110 both ways.
Okay, boy, that's interesting. That has jumped a lot. So where that was is interesting previously. So I have it at under for 152 because I didn't sim at 153. I think that basically is equivalent to -120 on a 152. So that means that's probably about equal. So they've evened it out. Good for them.
Okay. So which way am I leaning on that one, or now I'm avoiding it?
So I would lean a little bit under. That's jumped up recently. I'm just going to check one thing on my end to see what the sims say here. Yeah, that's been taken off here, but yeah, that's been jumping up, and I'm curious as to why. I don't know the full details behind that yet.
Okay, so that's something we'll monitor. Okay.
Yeah, it's something we monitor. I agree. Yeah. So there's the Grizzlies game that was kind of interesting to me about a total there.
Okay.
Again, a lot of these are changing really fast today. It's towards the middle of the week. People are trying to save up for the weekend.
We're sitting right now at 239.
Yeah, 239. That's where I want that to be, honestly. So that's pretty good. I believe I like the over in that case, but it's what's the value on it? Like the
-110.
-110. Okay, I think we're gonna take. I think we want to promote that. Yeah, because that's pretty good.
The over.
Right. So
the
Blazers,
over, yeah.
Grizzlies over 239.
Right. So let me check one thing here. Yeah, that is actually off the board for something that I'm looking at. So something has changed in that game that we don't know about yet, which is very interesting. There might be a syndicate who bet big on it. So
okay. Beautiful.
Jessica. And for the Furman game, by the way, just to double check, you said over 153 is the way you'd go?
That's been jumping over. I'm not sure why. I honestly am going to lean a little bit under on that, but
so then here, Jessica, this could be a Jessica betting on brand parlay for you. If you went over 239 on the Blazers Grizzlies game, went under 153 on the Chattanooga Furman game, that gets us to +264.
Let's see, +264. Do the math here on this. I think that's probably close to like, what do they imply that +264 is equal to 2747. So if we think it's about, let's see, we got to do the square root of 0.2747, and that'll give us what the number is for each value here, 0.2747. So we would need a 52% implied probability there. So that's equal to about, I believe, a 105 equal. So basically, they're juicing us about 10% on that from the math offhand.
Beautiful.
All right. So the way that you could just fix this is, and we'll add a Moose leg to it. Moose, Rutgers going to beat Minnesota tonight in basketball?
I think so.
So if I just add the money line there, it gets us up to 3-1 odds.
Beautiful.
What's the raw for Rutgers money line? I think that makes sense. I think
-1300.
Yeah, -1300.
At 1300. So let's see. Yeah, we had that kind of makes sense in my opinion because if you're going to do a 2747 and a 12/13 times that makes sense. So square the times
Just
12 divided by 13 is
No,
25.
you can't see that.
Yeah, so that comes out about right. Yeah, that's about equal.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
almost plus
Yeah.
292 if you want to do a little crossover action here, over 239 Blazers, Grizzlies, under 153 Chattanooga and Furman, and then you go Rutgers money line at minus 1300 gets us to plus 292. And if we wanted to, just really fast while we're doing this, let's just really fast have some fun. No, I got nothing. Okay, I was going to add a hockey play into it, but there's, I mean, I guess you like the Canes, Moose.
I don't
money
know.
line on
I'm
the
not
road
sure.
against the Sabres.
Probably, yeah. Well, I hate Buffalo because they've destroyed.
Yeah,
the
you
building
do.
up there.
If we added them on the money line on the road at the Sabres, that gets us to plus 563.
I just wrote the previews for those games for NHL Network, so I've seen a lot about those games. Those
Yeah.
games are really, really red hot lately.
Yeah.
It's interesting, though. So here's a fact that's from the packet. Bonus fact for you guys. I don't know if I can share it, but, it's sharing what they've done recently. So since December 17th, 2016, Canes are 13-1-0 against Buffalo, and they're 5-1-0 in Buffalo in that span.
Beautiful. Betting on brand. Jessica, we appreciate it. We'll chat with you again tomorrow, all right?
Thanks, you. Appreciate you.
You got
Bye,
it. Coming
Jessica.
back. Pat Perry from Tour Junkies will join us. It's Moose and Keith with you. Happy Hump Day, one and all. Do you like when people say Hump Day?
No.
I like it. No.
You do?
Yeah. Am I dating myself? Pat Perry will join us.
Yeah, no. You've just reminded us that you're older than
I'm
me.
old.
Yep.
Thank
No,
you.
just older than me. That's all we're saying.
Appreciate that. Well, I can't wait to talk to Pat. I really can. Barnett tells us everything about him. I can't wait to talk to Pat. We'll do a little golf. He joins us next from Tour Junkies. It's Moose and Keith with you, Better Sports Network.
Front Yard Fantasy with Simon, JL, and Coop.
Sell me on doing away with the two-conference system in the NFL.
Is it really a sale whenever this is something that's commonly agreed upon? I'm selling you on water being wet. I'm selling you on something that is objectively true right here. We look at teams at the end of the season and we go, how the hell does one team have such an easy schedule while another team is just absolutely getting obliterated? And that's because of the two-conference system, because the division system feeds into this conference system. It's a symptom of the greater problem. Like these divisional matchups, you're telling me it's fair that the Buccaneers are in the playoffs after playing the Panthers twice, the Falcons twice, and the Saints twice this year? That is unbelievable. There are multiple every single year that because of this system where we silo them into random groups, it determines the order. And yes, originally this was geography based, right? We had these divisions, they were geography. Geography doesn't matter whenever it comes to the size of the United States. These teams can travel anywhere. They don't need to geographically load conferences to make the games make more sense. If USC can be in the Big Ten, Miami play San Francisco every year. It can happen. They've got more money than these colleges and they're not taking classes. All it does is create an ecosystem where less talented teams can get rewarded for playing in weaker divisions and more talented teams are punished for continuing to improve.
Damn, bro.
Drop the mic.
I like to picture some geography teacher out there just threw a pen on the ground. He was like,
How dare you?
He smacked the globe. He was like, what do you
all
mean?
the hard work we've done.
2023, geography doesn't matter, right? Smacks his
You know
globe.
how long it took for us to get respect?
Globe goes spinning around, right? Geography doesn't matter. How dare
I'm
you?
just imagining they ripped on the world map and underneath is Algebra 2. Like they just go straight into being a math teacher.
Yeah.
Lunch Money with Kyle and Ray. Weekdays at noon Eastern, presented by FantasyGuru.com.
Paper straws. Oh, they're so bad, Ray. I mean, I'm almost tempted to say screw Mother Earth. Give me a real straw. The paper straw thing is a step too far in saving the planet for me.
It's a great idea. The problem is it has to last. Like, it can't go mushy halfway through my drink.
That's
And
the
I think
problem.
That's the problem. They have a hard time standing up if you don't drink that
100%.
drink.
That's my issue, Ray. I'm all for taking care of the only planet we got. But, Ray, some people like to drive a lot. I don't. I don't get on them for they have to drive 20 minutes to work every day. Can I just get a plastic straw? Like, I think, Ray, we should be able to pay for a card that says, I don't drive every day. This kind of environmental impact by getting a plastic straw. I am in favor, Ray, of government-issued plastic straws if I have the proof that I'm worthy of such. If you want it, you get it. It's kind of like the Clear Pass.
Yeah,
the
there you go.
airport.
Okay.
Like, Ray, I'd be willing to pay an extra $2 a year, and I get as many plastic straws as I want when I go out to the restaurant.
and the $2 goes toward cleaning the oceans or something.
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay. That's not a terrible idea. Not terrible.
Call, chat, enter contests in real time. It's Sports Talk 3.0 with Better Sports Network.
Oh. Check it.
Moose and Keith on Better Sports Network.
Let's continue the conversation. Pat Perry joins us now. First time we've ever chatted with Pat. We always talk with David Barnett each and every week, and Pat does a great job toward Junkies. Look at him. Hat looks beautiful. You know, now I agree with you, Pat. Like, just from a sheer, like, because Keith and I had this conversation weeks ago, because sometimes I'll wear a Yankee hat, and I'll have my hat sometimes. I don't wear the straight brim. Neither do you.
No.
And Keith was like, no, you got to go straight brim.
No, I don't ever do that. That's not my style. By the way, I'm not a fan of the Happy Hump Day. I don't like it. It makes me grumpy. I don't want to hear Happy Hump Day.
I'm with you, Pat. I'm with you, Pat. I also
downhill. We're getting over the hump.
No. I also, Pat, the one thing that Moose left out of that is I would still personally, like, if I'm rocking a hat, normally I wear it backwards anyway, but I would have the rim bent a little bit.
Yeah.
But the cool kids don't. It was my point. Like,
yeah, I mean, you're right.
We're older. Like, my 12-year-old son will not be like, he's not doing this with the brim.
No.
It's flat. And it might even be turned a little bit to the side or whatever, or it's like also very loose on the head. It's not pulled down tight or anything like that.
Absolutely. I mean, I've got a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old, same thing. And, you know, I'm just old school. I'm an old guy. So I need my bill to be curved a little bit. It doesn't look good on my head anyway, if it's all flat and everything. So.
Can I ask one more question about the hat? All right. So when I was coaching Little League baseball for both of my sons, now I have a 12-year-old and an 8-year-old, 3rd grade and 6th grade. They don't play baseball anymore. They play other sports. But I always wore my hat backwards when I coached. Okay. I had one dad say to me, like, dude, like, can't you turn your hat around? I'm like, no, this. And I'm like, fine. Picture day for my now 8-year-old when he was 4 years old. My son turns his hat backwards to wear it like that. And the photographer looks at me, this nice woman says, he should turn it around. I'm like, no, if that's the way he wants to wear it, we're cool like that. And she was like, okay. And then in the team picture, me and him were the only ones with our hats backwards. Yes, I'm a rebel.
That's great. Look, you know, Billy Horschel, who wore his hat backwards at the Open Championship, I believe it was St. Andrews. I could be wrong. Maybe not St. Andrews. Got a lot of crap on Twitter for that. And so I gave him some crap. And then we ended up getting him on for an interview. And then I had to apologize to him. So DB wrote out this long apology and everything. I don't mind the backwards hat deal, but not while you're like in the middle of playing the Open Championship, a major. So I did get on him for that. So
that's fair. That's fair.
So Pat, because we got the backstory with David, because it's the first time you're joining us. So why don't we start here? Like, how did you tell us a little bit about your journey and tour Junkies and you and David?
Yeah, so we worked together in banking. And, you know, I used to just go and sit in his office. He was a manager of one of the branches that I would go visit, and we'd go sit in there and we'd talk golf, and we'd talk fantasy golf, really, DraftKings, that kind of stuff. So that's where it started. And we kind of just said, you know, let's start a podcast. We know golf. I grew up playing golf from a very early age. You know, growing up in Augusta, it's hard. I mean, you almost grow up with a golf club in your hand. So, you know, I've always been passionate about golf. I love the game. And I love talking about it. And then when we got into fantasy and betting, it just was natural. We had a good rapport. We practiced for a long time, actually, before we released our first show, just kind of feeling each other out, figuring out, you know, who was best at what. DB is, you know, obviously kind of our host, and I chime in when I can. He likes to talk a lot, so I don't get to always talk. So I'm just glad to be able to, like, he let me come on with you guys today.
Whoa.
But, yeah, so we just kind of started it from there, and then here we are. We're 7 or 8 years into this.
So, Pat, who's the better golfer, you or David?
Dave, I have to admit, David is a little better than me. Now, I always say I have more talent, but because I can hit some shots that he just can't hit. I have a very good short game. His it's a little suspect, but you know, he can hit it further than me. He hits his irons a little more pure than I do. So if we're going by handicaps, he has the better handicap. But we've played straight up a few times and I've won. So
who's the better trash talker out of you two?
oh, definitely me. Definitely, for sure.
What's like your go-to? Like, because you've known now, you don't have to give your actual stuff that you say, but you've known David for a long, or you could. You've known David a long time. Like, what's your go-to that you know can kind of screw him up a little bit?
A lot of times it's just I got to get on to him about his attire on the golf course. You know, he likes to, you know, wears his shirt all untucked, and then I mean. I feel like last time we played, somebody from the club came out and like told him to tuck his shirt in. Last time I took him to a golf course, and so he immediately is frazzled. And I'm not telling you that I told the guy to come out there and say anything, but maybe I did. And he's immediately frazzled because he feels like he's not wearing correct things out there and whatever else. But no, DB's hard to frazzle. Actually, I will say that he gets he likes his floral shirts and things like that, and his flat bills like we were talking about earlier and all that kind of stuff. So we have a good time out there though.
Well, I want to. So he's the better golfer, right? You have more talent. Who's the better golf better?
Well, this year it's probably been DB, but last year it was me. I mean, I hit, I want to say 10 outrights last year on the season.
Oh, that's great.
So I if we're going off of that last year, I won that. But so far this year, he's got more outrights than I do, including last week, by the way. He hit.
Yeah, the Homa one was good.
Yeah, he hit Max Homa at 25-1. I think he mentioned it on y'all's show. He mentioned it in our show. He had it on his betting card. So good hit for him. He loves Max Homa. I like Max too. Max is great. I think he's going to win a major probably this year. He gets LA Country Club, where he's from California. So LA Country Club is a perfect spot for him. I did hit Aaron Rye, by the way, as a first-round leader on our show for BSN. He was 65-1, and now we had to chop that 3 ways, so it ended up paying out 22-1. But first-round leaders are very hard to hit, so I was quite proud of that one last week.
I want to ask you 2 questions with this. First, you can just give me a yes, no. Do you gamble on other sports besides golf?
Absolutely, yes, I do.
So in your preparation for what you do for us at Better Sports Network, Tour Junkies, and making sure that you're giving out amazing information for everybody, what's the difference between gambling on golf and gambling on the other sports?
Oh man, obviously golf is just so variable when you talk about the game in general. Like you get so many different types of players that you can look at for a different course. So I think the variability of golf is the biggest difference. But also like line shopping. I mean, when we look at golf lines, we have to look at 3 or 4 different books. I mean, there can be a huge disparity. I'll talk about some people I like this week. There's some big disparities, whereas you don't really see a whole lot of that when it comes to if you're betting on an NFL line. I mean, we can just go with the Super Bowl. I think the Eagles are favored by 1 or 2 right now. That may change a little bit, but not a lot until we get up to the Super Bowl based off where the money's going. But with golf, you can have somebody at 90-1 on one book and 65-1 on another book. So a lot more shopping when it comes to that. I will say this though, and I should be better at golf betting than I am on sports betting like NFL and things like that. And I am. I just don't feel like I have a handle on the NFL. Maybe college football more so than anything. The NFL is always tough for me.
We're talking to Pat Perry from Tour Junkies. All right, Pat. So what early on here? You mentioned like last year you had 10 outright winners early on here. David has been a little bit better at picking winners, right? We all like making money. Who doesn't like making money? That's why we're going out there betting. I find it interesting that you guys were working in banking, closed the door, and you'd step into his office and basically you were breaking down DFS fantasy lineups and who you liked in the next upcoming tournament. Like that's just awesome. I love that. But I want to ask you, what do you learn early on here? Or is it just from your perspective, course to course? What golfer matches up better? Do you like to bet a golfer that starts to get into a good kind of a role regardless of course? Like what are kind of the angles that you like to look at when you're handicapping a specific tournament?
Well, if I'm starting off my week looking at research, it's going to immediately start with the course, and it's going to then start with a guy's recent form. I think course history and recent form are huge when it comes to betting or fantasy golf or whatever you're looking at. There's a lot of people out there that don't like course history. So then they'll say, course fit. And the course fit would be like a course this week at Pebble Beach. It's a ball strikers golf course, meaning you got to hit fairways, you got to hit greens. There's small greens out there. And then if you do miss the greens, you got to scramble well. And it changes week to week. And you really, as you get to know golf, I think looking at the course first, looking at a guy's recent form is going to give you a good kind of, sort of pare down who you want to bet. And then you start looking about like, what are these guys' stats going into this tournament? Because stats are weird with golf. If you just go to the PGA Tour website, you're going to get stats that go back maybe 100 rounds. Well, that's not necessarily giving you a good sample size of how somebody's going to play that week. So we like to pare that down to the last 12 rounds, 24 rounds, that kind of thing. And then once we get the stats that we like for that course, then we're sort of just, compiling our players that we really like in DFS and then who we like as an outright bet. So, but it really starts to me with the course and with recent form. I think if we've done so many different interviews with players, caddies, coaches, all of that kind of stuff. And they mentioned course history and they mentioned top 2 things that they would look at as far as being able to handicap who they think can win that week.
Pat, question from our chat. Does how a guy perform in different weather types help you predict who's going to win?
Yes, absolutely it does. When we get bad, you want guys that could traditionally play in that type of weather. And here's the thing. You're not necessarily looking at guys that like it's hard to find a stat where a guy's a good wind player or a guy's a good rain player or whatever the conditions may be. But guys that are patient out there. Guys that play good on hard golf courses. We'll look at guys like last week. Max Homa is a perfect example. He plays very well on hard golf courses and in certain conditions. So you're going to look at guys that are patient out there, guys that tend to make a lot of pars. They don't get themselves in trouble too much. So if I'm looking at that, I'm looking like who's accurate off the tee. Who's not making a whole lot of mistakes. Bogey avoidance is something that we look at, especially in majors or in weather. So that's a stat that tells me these are guys that don't typically make a whole lot of big numbers on the golf course. And that's what you want to look at for weather. You really just want guys that aren't going to make huge mistakes, because if you get in some high winds and you're spraying it all over the place, you're just not going to score well and you're not going to win.
All right, Pat, what about this week? First, before we get to the Pebble Beach Pro-Am, I want to ask you, are you a Patrick Reed guy or not?
No, not at all. Now, DB and I, we can talk live golf and we can talk the PGA Tour. I'm more old school. I like the PGA Tour. I understand live and I get what they're doing. So I'm not a hater from that standpoint. I'm not a hater from a political standpoint with it. I'm just a fan of the PGA Tour. I think Reed is just, I just don't like Patrick Reed. I will say this. Ryder Cup 2016 in Hazeltine, when he and Rory went at it, I was out there that day. It was fantastic. It was great theater. I loved Patrick Reed that day. I loved when he was Captain America. I don't think he's Captain America anymore. And so I'm just not a fan of him. And I think to be honest, I don't want to say he's a cheater because then he's probably going to sue me. But I do think
Well, why does he go? Let me ask you this.
Why don't you say he pushes the line?
Well, why is he always involved in these questionable rulings?
Yeah, that's a good question because it's crazy to me that he always finds himself.
He's always like we had Dustin Johnson in the sand trap, non-sand trap years ago and stuff like that. Like you've seen it before and people breaking it down, whether it be the Masters, did the ball oscillate, did it move? But it feels like Patrick Reed at least 2 or 3 times every golf season, there's a questionable ruling and it's always Patrick Reed.
They just tend to find him, like last week, there was a question on what tree his ball landed in. Like, how many times have you played golf and hit a ball in a tree and it's stuck in there? Even let me just tell you, if you don't play golf, I don't think that's ever happened. I've played my entire life, but it happens to Patrick Reed in Dubai. And there's a question on what tree it actually went into. He tried to claim one tree. It ended up, if you saw video evidence, it was actually another tree, but it's Patrick Reed. It just flows towards him.
Yeah.
What are you looking forward to in this Pebble Beach Pro-Am?
Well, Pebble Beach is a weird tournament. This is a major type golf course, but they're playing it on 3 golf courses this week because it is an amateur event where they bring in the Pro-Ams. They got a lot of celebrities that play in this. So they're going to be on 3 courses. A couple of the courses they can score A lot of par fives out here. So we're going to look at, par five scoring. That's one of the things I'm looking at. But if I'm looking at bets this week, I'm going to give you 4 guys that I really love. Maverick McNeely is one of them. He's on the shorter end at 20-1. Mav plays well on the West Coast. He's a West Coast guy, just like Max Homa. He putts well on Poana greens that we have this week. He finished second here just a couple years ago. So Mav's got some good history, and he's in good form as well. I'm a fan of the old guys this week. We've seen some old guys win this tournament. Mickelson won it a few years ago. So you got Justin Rose, you got Matt Kuchar, both guys that are playing here this week. They've both in good recent form. So I'm going to they're at 35-1 right there together. And then I got a couple long shots for you. And this is a tournament where we've seen some long shots win. You got like 2016 Vaughn Taylor, who's from Augusta. He won here at 300-1. You had Nick Taylor win here. I think it was 2020. He was about 150-1. Ted Potter. Y'all probably never heard of Ted Potter.
I immediately was like, I don't know.
I thought he was a character in a Disney movie.
Harry Potter?
He may be on mini tours right now for all I know, but he's probably playing this week. He won at 300-1. So you can get some long shots that win on this course, because Pebble Beach, again, it's shorter. All the 3 courses that they've played, they're short courses, got to hit fairways and greens. So Robbie Shelton is another guy. He's at 90-1. I've seen him at 60 to 65-1 on other books. So I think there's some value there with Robbie Shelton. And then my favorite is Erik van Rooyen, the South African. He is in really good form. I've seen him at 50-1 on other books, but I found him at 125-1. I love him. He's at 8,000 on DraftKings, and then he's at 125-1 to bet. I mean, somebody at 125-1 should be in the low 7,000s on DraftKings. So there's something up there, but he's another guy. He can score on par fives. He's a great ball striker. He's one of the top 10 ball strikers in the field. So Erik van Rooyen at 125-1, I really like this week.
Now, are you picking these guys to win, or are there other ways to get value in them?
These are win bets.
Okay.
Now, if you want to look at top 20s on them, I would say EVR, Erik van Rooyen, and Shelton. You probably could get somewhere around like plus 350, plus 400, something in that range. So.
You think what's of all those plays, what's the one you're most confident in, Pat? Like top 20 Erik van Rooyen?
Probably top 20 Erik van Rooyen.
FanDuel has it at 3-1 for that. I could look at other sites too, though.
Yeah, I don't have the top 20s up on my board here, but yeah, and then I also like Mav. Mav's probably like plus 100. I think he's plus 105 on DK. So not great, but if you're getting those, looking at some of those longer odds guys, maybe bet them top 20.
Plus 360 Van Rooyen for DraftKings. For top 20, sorry.
Love that.
Pat Perry, Tour Junkies. Pat, you're great, man. You and David do a fantastic job. Don't be bashful. We got to get you on again. We love talking golf here.
Hey, anytime. I've now come on for the first time, so I'm used to you guys, and I like how you like to, maybe talk a little trash too. So I love it.
Yeah, you're officially family now, and just so you know, Moose is still really salty that DB and I, like, we text on the side and we talk and stuff like that. So yeah, so Pat, if you want to throw him a bone, you can give him your cell phone number. Otherwise, if you want to hang with the cool kids, me, you, and DB.
Pat, I won't abuse it. Trust me. I'll just relentlessly text you on the back nine on Sunday.
I think I'm gonna have to give Moose my cell, because DB has all these little side texts, and it drives me crazy. And I have to say I'm jealous. Like, he has these sharps. His sharps that he finds, and then he somehow gets their cell numbers and they're texting, and he won't tell me what they're texting about, and it drives me crazy. So Moose, let's get together. Yeah. We got to turn the table.
Moose is crushing hockey right now, so you're good.
All right, I need some hockey plays. I need them.
Pat, who do you like in the Super Bowl?
I'm going with the Eagles.
Yeah, me too. All right, we're all on Fly Eagles.
Let's go.
Pat, that's all right. We love you, Pat. Thank you, bud. Good luck with all your plays this weekend. We got to get you on again real soon. You and David are fantastic.
Well, we appreciate that. Thank you for having me on.
You got it.
Great
Pat
stuff,
Perry,
man.
Thanks. Tour Junkies. There you have it. Erik van Rooyen, top 20, getting 3-1.
Yeah, I was looking through. All right, so top 20. If you go to DraftKings for Van Rooyen, you can get him at plus 360. If you wanted to roll with Van Rooyen on to to win the entire thing. Let's see where we can get him on DraftKings. I'm just going to double check this for everybody out there. So yeah, it's 100 to 1 to win the whole thing. 18 to 1 for top 5. And then for 10, and then top 10 is plus 850. So if you want to play it safe, maybe you go plus 850 just for him to finish top 10, right?
Yes.
On a long shot. I think you also, if you wanted to, can I mess with this? I'm going to get rid of this other thing. I want to try something really fast. So the names he mentioned were Maverick McNeely. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Let's add more. Let's have some fun here. Justin Rose and Matt Kuchar. Those are the first 3 he mentioned. If you put all 3 of them, oh, you can't parlay those. Why can't you parlay those on DraftKings? What did I do wrong? I don't know why I can't parlay that. All right, I was going to try to parlay those on DraftKings to see if you could do all of that stuff. But all right, so McNeely, by the way, top 20 is plus 110. Kutcher is plus 170. Rose is plus 175. Those are to finish in the top 20.
Beautiful.
All right. There you go. So a couple of golf plays for you if you want.
That's awesome. Pat and David are great.
They sound very similar, right?
They do, yeah. Well, they're Southern guys.
I love it. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I love the Southern twang. I feel like loose and relaxed.
You look loose and relaxed.
It's been a very stressful morning.
Has it really?
Yeah, it has been a little bit.
Boys are just,
Yeah,
happens.
right.
Yeah,
just nonsense.
Did we loosen you up though? Because I did that for you. All right, I'm your wingman. Okay,
I know
remember that. Remember that.
I love you. You know that. Yeah. I mean, because you saw I was having a hard time getting on the air this morning, and then Donna was getting on me about something, and it was just I was like, I can't have this argument as Keith and Ernie and everyone's watching.
Well, Pat Perry might be your new friend.
That's it. Saying. That's exactly right. We're going to talk to the CEO of Alucra coming up, which I'm looking forward to that conversation. Dylan Robbins is going to join us. Dylan, obviously, Lucra is great. We love it. Proud sponsor here of Better Sports Network. We'll get into all things Lucra coming your way, top of the 11 o'clock hour. We got to get into Super Bowl 57 MVP odds because I've got an angle to that. It's going to go outside the quarterbacks that I think is outside of the, right now, plus 110 on Jalen Hurts. I think it's like plus 130 or 140 on Patrick Mahomes. I got another odd that I kind of like. And it's not, sorry, Baby J, it's not Travis Kelce. It's another one.
Because if it's Travis Kelce, it's probably Mahomes. Yes. That's the problem.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, the Kelce thing is, listen, if Mahomes throws 3 touchdowns and all 3 of them are to Kelce, then sure, maybe it happens. But if Mahomes throws 3 touchdowns and 2 are to Kelce and he goes for 110, it's I was thinking his brother, Jason. Very funny. Very funny, Baby J.
No, it's not Slay.
Look at everyone guessing.
I'll give you a hint.
It's Chris Jones.
It's not. Right. It's Frank Clark.
It's Frank Clark.
Nick Bolton.
It's Harrison Butker.
No.
It's going to be
we like
15-3 final. Chiefs win. Harrison Butker, 5 field goals. Would he get it? Probably not. Yes. It'd be a defensive player, probably.
Right. No, maybe a defense. Right. Somebody would have had sacks or something like that.
Yeah. Miles Sanders.
No. Oh.
Kenneth Gainwell.
You're right along the line of thinking. You're right there.
The Bostonian Boston Scott. I'm kidding.
Scott. No, it's not Boston Scott.
Yeah.
It's look at if you like the Eagles, look at the way they've won games this postseason. And then look at if the Chiefs can stop them. If the 49ers couldn't stop them, what would lead you to believe that all of a sudden the Kansas City Chiefs were going to stop them from running the football?
Yeah.
And if you go down that angle, you look at running backs for the Philadelphia Eagles, and Keith mentioned him. If you're looking at Miles Sanders now at 22-1 to be the MVP of the Super Bowl, I think it's just an amazing value. So We can get more
value.
into that.
We'll talk more about that. Yeah.
Dylan Robbins. We're going to take a quick timeout. Dylan Robbins, the CEO of Lucra, is going to join us next. It's Moose and Keith with you on a Wednesday. I know everybody hates it, but happy hump day, one and all, right here on the Better Sports Network.
Join Corey Nando and Friends, presented by Mayo Media, weekdays at 3 Eastern on Better Sports Network.
You teased me about this before the show. Maybe you've gone nuts with ticket stubs over the last.
And like I said, I texted you last week, right? So I started out just going through and tripping off and looking for some Dallas Cowboy things. I was telling my son that there was a game that we allowed him to. We said, listen, you with this Washington Redskins thing is aggravating me. 5 years old. You got to pick a team today and stick with it. Whoever wins the game is going to be your team. Washington won the game. And I started thinking about it. It'd be cool to have something from that game. There's a ticket stub for it, right? So when I found this, I started finding more ticket stubs, Nando, and I was like, this is pretty interesting stuff right here, right? So then the next one I kind of caught my eye with another Washington-Dallas game where
I hope these are like $11 ticket stubs here, man, because like there's no significance to these at all except for Corey Parsons.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's not much. So I ended up getting the last time they were called the Washington Redskins.
Yeah.
They played the Cowboys.
All right.
Scoop that up for like $4. You know what I'm saying?
Smart.
Now, here's something I got last night. $12, right? You may think this is cool. You might not. Kevin Durant's last game as a Texas Longhorn.
Oh, that's pretty cool, actually.
How about this? The Fab Five versus Duke in the national championship.
That's a good one. $30.
Coach K's second championship, $35.
All right, not bad. Tyler in the background's talking about the Redskins-Cowboys scab game. The Redskins won on Monday Night Football in '87.
That's an interesting one right there. That's a classic. How about this one?
Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 3's got it. I bet you that's a $450 ticket at least.
I'm about to tell you about a wrestling one I saw on here. I bought this one just because of how cool it is right here. 1986 Monday Night Football, Washington and Dallas. Check out the ticket.
Tom Landry?
Tom Landry on the ticket.
Nice.
$2
That's a piece of art
right there. Yeah, it's a piece of art.
That's a piece
you know
of
what
art.
I'm saying?
What are you going to do with
Landry
these?
on the ticket. I have no clue yet. I got to figure it out. I'm going to have them. That's what I'm going to do with them. So listen to this one that I saw, right? I saw the ticket from remember when Stone Cold Steve Austin drove the beer truck down to the ring and pulled out the beer hose and sprayed the rock?
That's after my time.
I saw that one, Denver at the Pepsi Center. That ticket, Nando, was online. $850. If I had $850, I would have bought that one, Nando. You know what I'm saying? That one, because that was a legendary Stone Cold moment. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But it's things like that. I think the ticket thing, Nando, obviously you want to chase the big items, but I think it lies in what's important to you.
Join Corey Nando and Friends, presented by Mayo Media, weekdays at 3 Eastern on Better Sports Network.
Let's go.
Moose and Keith on Better Sports Network.
It is. We hit the second hour. We're taking you right up until high noon, and we're now being joined by Dylan Robbins, the CEO of Lucra. Hey, Dylan, great to meet you. We appreciate your support, obviously, and Lucra's support here of Better Sports Network. Marc Malusis Keith Irizarry, thanks for the time this morning.
Hey, good to meet you guys. Can you hear me
Morning,
okay?
Dylan. Yeah, all good over here.
Good. I like it was cool. I was watching backstage. It's a very cool thing you got going on here with the ads in between. I haven't been part of a lot of digital radio shows. It's a cool vibe. I like it. It's got some good energy.
Nice, man. Love it. All right, explain Lucra to everybody out there and why you wanted this to be a thing that is out there for everybody to be a part of.
Yeah, I mean, Lucra is a unique new platform, but it really has a basis and a very simple idea is that we think that people want to bet with their friends, right? Our product is built off the fact that the casual fan is at the bar or at their buddy's house and they're putting $5 on the game and they're doing it on Venmo. And I think that there's a huge opportunity to open the market up to all these casual fans. A lot of people who feel boxed out by the traditional sports books because they're too complicated or there's complex jargon. They don't understand the lines or the spreads. And so Lucra's goal is to just make it simple. And our favorite way of doing that is we just connect you directly with your friends. So it's a social platform. It's peer-to-peer. We're not the house. We don't take any risk on these wagers. We just are a marketplace to kind of connect you with your friends directly to engage. So it started as just a business for sports. We've expanded outside of sports now. We offer 150 recreational games from cornhole to beer pong to darts to Wordle. to Peloton, you name it. You can challenge your friends now on Lucra. And you've got all the gaming and tracking and stats and leaderboards to go with it to make it fun. So it's a bit about what we do, and excited to chat with you guys about it today.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, okay, so Dylan, take us back to when it all began then. Like, when did it start? Like, what was the idea, the kind of, for lack of a better cliche, the come to Jesus moment where you say, okay, I think this is going to work. And how long did it take you to get it going and up and running?
Yeah, good question. I mean, it really started over 10 years ago when I was at college. I went to Duke undergrad. I'm a huge Duke basketball fan. So it's been a big part of my life is kind of following Duke, and I met my wife there as well. So it's been a great thing. And it really started there, sitting on the couch with my buddies, and we were betting $5-10 on games. FanDuel and DraftKings had just started. They had just tried to start figuring out the legal stuff here. And I realized that none of my buddies, even though I'm a big, player myself, I'm on all these other platforms, my buddies wouldn't join. And I kept saying, why? And it was a combination of either, I don't trust this, or I don't understand this, or I feel like I'm going to lose because I'm playing against the house. Like I'd rather go against you, after a couple beers where I feel like I've got a better chance. Right. And so we kind of started it there at Duke, and it just was nowhere ready from a regulatory standpoint. And so we put it on hold for a couple of years. I did investment banking. I actually founded another startup in a different industry. And then in 2018, PASPA got repealed and everything changed in our world. And I, quit my job and started the next day. And so it's been like a 10-year road or more. But that's mostly just because of the regulatory hurdles of our industry.
So take us then to 2018. So you decide to quit your job. You go full force into this. What are the steps? What's the process?
Yeah, so we took kind of a inverse or like a reverse approach to a lot of traditional startups. I think what you generally hear is, find some sort of product market fit, do a beta, test it out, and then raise some money and try to scale that business. And I think in our world, such a regulatory space, we were more focused on the can you scale? We know that people want to bet with their friends, but it doesn't exist today. So is there a way? Can you create a type of product that is scalable? So we kind of went backwards. We did the legal work first, regulatory work, compliance, legal opinions, banking partnerships, payment processing, KYC, know your customer, like a ton of stuff that will bore your listeners. We don't have to go into it. But we started there. So we spent about 18 months working on the legal side of the business before we wrote a single line of code. And then once we got that kind of set up, then we kind of went to the more creative side, which was starting to develop our product.
Dylan, how difficult of a choice was that to just quit everything and focus? Because it's a huge gamble. I mean, but you're an entrepreneur, I get it. But how big of a, it's 2018, we're going back 5 years ago. But to say, all right, I'm quitting what I know and I have income coming in to where now I'm going to heavily invest into this, which I wholeheartedly believe in, no doubt. But it's also a huge gamble, no?
Yeah, first of all, I'm a gambler, right? I work in this space, so I think I think it is a risk tolerance thing. You're right, like it was going from making a salary to not, but B, I think that I was young, right? I think I was 26 or 27 years old at the time, and like I figured like now is the time to do it, right? If it falls on its face, I'll do it for 18 months, and then I'll go back, and the other jobs will still be there, and I'll learn a lot. And so one of the biggest pieces of advice that I give to some of my buddies or even some younger folks is like, now's the time. Like before, I still don't have kids, I don't have a family yet. I don't have a mortgage. Like it was a good time to just, rip it and go for it. And it paid off. And I think that, a lot of it's just, taking that leap.
What are the next steps? Like what's the future growth of Lucra?
Good question. I think for us, it's really the expansion outside of sports. I think that we've proven that sports is a great model. We've got a ton of great customers who love our sports product, but we're really paving the way or really innovating on this recreational game side of our business as we think about all these unique categories and areas where people are competing. Spike ball, pickleball, all these things that are blowing up across the globe right now. Lucra is the first real way where people can bet with their friends on these games. And so we're getting a lot of new customers from that, a lot of brand awareness from that. And I think we're just trying to iterate that product, make it more fun, make it easier. But we're going to keep our ethos the same, casual, social, and fun. That's what Lucra's about. Our average contest is $10. This is not about bankrupting your friends. It's not about winning big and paying your rent. It's about the magic of the moment and making that moment better by having $5 on the line. If you ever played a round of golf on Sunday or watched a football game, you guys get it. You put a few bucks on it. It just changes the way you interact with that game. You watch it longer. You spend more money there. And it gives us a lot of time for us to, a lot of opportunity for us to partner with other brands because of that.
Right. So, I mean, in nature, it's kind of, well, not exactly the same, but when you look at, pari-mutuel wagering, when you look at thoroughbred racing, right? Because for everyone that's looking at it, it's the pool, you're winning the pool about the money that's put in, whether it be $5, $10, because that's kind of what, pari-mutuel wagering is. When you look at harness racing, thoroughbred racing is, there's not a matter of whatever's bet in is the money that's going out.
Right. Exactly.
When you look at Keith asked you about the growth of the industry, what's the biggest learning lesson, Dylan, that you learned early on in formulating this concept, this business, that kind of helped you take that biggest step forward?
It's a great question. I think for us, we saw an opportunity in the sense that I think the biggest industry problem is customer acquisition costs. And I think that's not going to surprise you. You look around, there's a tremendous amount of competition. As more and more states get legalized, that's great, but it just means more and more money is pouring into marketing and promotions. And, I live in New York City, and I'll never forget the weekend where it went live. And I think I was able to accumulate $7,000 or $8,000 or $9,000 of deposit matches in about 36 hours. And I was like, wow, this can't be good because I'm playing on all of these sites. I'm bouncing around. My brand loyalty is zero, and they've all spent over $1,000 on me to acquire me as a customer, right? And I'm going to churn on 7 out of the 8. Right. And so I think that was an eyeball moment for us being like, well, customer acquisition needs to be a key focus here. It doesn't matter how good our business is if we can't acquire customers for under $100 a customer. So that was a big learning and a big focus is I'd rather acquire less people, but acquire them at a price that we think makes sense from a unit economic standpoint, especially since our users are lower LTV. They bet 10 or 20 or $30. They don't bet, $10,000. Right. And so for us, it's been a big focus of our business, and our business model is low-cost customer acquisition. We don't do crazy deposit matches. We have people invite their friends. 40% of the people on Lucra were invited by another person on Lucra. And so it's a social engine, and we're leaning, it's a product-led growth. We're leaning heavily into that.
Yeah, I want to ask you about kind of the New York aspect of it, because I know I know there's a bill that's put out there to cut down on the amount of tax revenue, right? It's at 51%. And in order to drop it down to about 25, 27%. They also want to bring in more, betting houses into the state of New York. What about, as you mentioned, in terms of bringing customers in? Because you've seen it across the board, whether it be FanDuel, DraftKings, BetMGM, Bet Rivers, whatever it might be. You're seeing the advertising and some of that pull start to decrease here because the profit margin is starting to decrease as well, correct?
100%. And I think that what that leads to is consolidation. I'll just come out and say it. That's what I think will happen over the next couple of years. That's my hypothesis, is you're going to see some of these big players, partner up because, why not split the customer acquisition costs across, the user bases? And it's just, there's a lot of fish in the sea, and there's a lot of options for customers to go and wager. And there's not too much differentiation between these products, right? I mean, we can call a spade and say that they have different promos or different UI and UX, but there's not many unique features between some of the big players and what you can do. And I think that's a great opportunity for Lucra. We have a very niche, unique game that I think is a great, synergy with some of these companies. We view them not as competitors, as partners. We'd like to partner with them as we continue to grow and offer our social and peer-to-peer experience with them.
Who are your teams? Who do you root for?
I'm all in diehard New York Knicks. I was at the Garden last night for a tough OT loss against LeBron. It was cool to see LeBron in full form. I'm Knicks, I'm Giants, I'm Rangers, and I'm Mets.
Okay, so Rangers, what's the, if you had to pick out, because we all have moments as kids that kind of shape us as sports fans.
Yeah.
Is there a game that you look back on in your New York fandom that I was there that night?
Easy. For me, it's in the Knicks. I was there for Linsanity when Jeremy Lin dropped a bajillion points on Kobe. I think it was 35. I was there with my dad. I don't know how old I was. I must have been a young teenager. And it was, I just remember being as this short, unathletic kid being this could be me. If Jeremy Lin can do it, I can do it. And I remember Linsanity like it was yesterday. and that was really cool. There's some great Carmelo Anthony moments too, like when he dropped 60 at the Garden.
62,
62, yeah, that was awesome. But yeah, MSG is a special place, and I think it's so cool. I live in New York. I've lived here for a long time. Just being so close, 10-minute subway away, like it's just great. You can. There's no excuse to not be a Big Knicks fan, in my opinion.
Well, Lucra is great. You know that, Dylan. I mean, it's great. We love working with you here at Better Sports Network, and the product is just awesome because. And you mentioned about the separation between you and I'm not saying you don't partner up or down the line partner up with other, like FanDuel, DraftKings, whatever it might be. But what separates you is like this is kind of like sitting at the bar watching a game and being like, hey, I'll put $5 down, $10 down, whatever it might be on a particular, and being able to do that, and you provide the opportunity to be able to do that. I think it's just it's awesome.
And to your point, we're going to even take that to a next level in the sense that when you're sitting at that bar, sometimes you're saying, I'll bet you $5, but sometimes you're like, hey, I'll bet you a beer, or I'll bet you wings, or it's something we want to take it to that next level.
I've lost many a dinner, Dylan. I'll tell you that.
Exactly. And we want to take it to that next level and partner with consumer brands as a win-win, right? Like we can activate them in an advertising capacity on our platform, but it also desensitizes the casual fan. A lot of fans, for some reason, feel more comfortable betting a nachos than betting $15. Because it separates that dollar amount. And so we're really focusing on how can we bring that into our product and amplify that experience even more, and partner with local establishments and brands to do that. So I think that we'll take that, we'll take that step this year.
Now I'm about to put a contest now, by the way. Once we get done with you, Dylan, I'm gonna throw one out there and see if anyone wants to compete with me.
Dylan, were you one when you were at Duke that would sleep overnight for a basketball game?
Yeah, so my wife actually worked for the Duke basketball team, so I had the inside scoop because she managed the tent area, and she did like the tent checks, and so I would kind of get a text from her like, "Hey, you got to be here in like 10 minutes, otherwise you're gonna miss your spot." So I didn't have to sleep in the line that often because I had an inside source. But I mean, God, Cameron Indoor is unbelievable. I try to go back once every year. Team's okay this year, but we've got Duke UNC on Saturday, which is a big game. But it's a great atmosphere to watch sports. It's like a high school gym. It's a crazy environment.
Well, Dylan, however way we can help, I mean, and we do on a day in, day out basis. Lucra's awesome. It's an unbelievable product. Congratulations on all your success and continued success moving forward.
Before I head out, I'd love to know, who do you guys like for the big game in a couple weeks, the Super Bowl?
We're both
going Eagles.
Both going Eagles.
How about
money
you?
Line, just straight up Eagles money line.
Yeah, I take I would lay the points with the Eagles as well, wherever.
I would too, yes.
Yeah, I would lay the point and a half. I think they're going to run the ball down the Chiefs' throat. I think they're going to line up
so good. It's just so hard to bet against Mahomes. He's just a magician sometimes. Well, I think we'll see how the ankle is. I think I'm going to wait to make my wager till a couple days before and just kind of see if any more news comes out. But I don't know. I think it's gonna be a great game. I hope it's close. I was not that excited about the Eagles Niners game.
It was terrible.
A waste of time.
It was just an.
You don't like seeing fourth and fifth string quarterbacks play? I'm confused by that.
I was frustrated in Shanahan not going to the Wildcat. I was like, why are we not going to McCaffrey after one or two drives where they just couldn't get anything? Do something, right? It's the playoffs. The season's over, and McCaffrey's he knows how to throw the ball.
Yeah.
But all right, well, we'll see. Maybe I'll ride with you guys in the Eagles. I'll take that as a good omen.
Is that you like betting football the most, Dylan?
It's a good question. I do a lot of golf. Golf is my favorite to do.
I just had Pat Perry on from Tour Junkies.
Oh, nice. Yeah, no, I love golf. I like. I just find it really interesting to do, and in sense of it's really course specific, and every weekend it's it's a bit different. But I like NFL and NBA too. I'll dabble in anything.
Dylan, continued success. Lucra, love the neon sign over your left shoulder.
Oh, yeah.
Just awesome. It's just fantastic.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. Thanks to the Better Sports Network and all you guys do to support Lucra. Good to meet you guys. I'm sure we'll chat more in the future.
100%.
Absolutely.
And thanks for having me on.
You got it. Good luck.
Right,
and have a great Wednesday.
See you guys.
There you have it. Dylan Robbins, CEO of Lucra. Yeah, it was great. I mean, he's not wrong.
So I got a contest.
Gamble on yourself at 26.
I love and that's the time to do it, right? He worded it correctly. I don't have a family.
Imagine walking into your wife right now. You've got 2 kids, 12 and 8, and being like, "Listen, I've got an idea. I need I need the next year and a half. I'm going to quit everything and just focus on this. What do you think your wife would say to you right now?
Go for it.
She would not, dude. There's no way.
She'd say, I support you.
Dude, this is not a movie. This is not Hollywood. She'd be like, what are you, insane? No.
She'd say, go for it, honey.
Like,
I've got your back.
What are you talking about? They're playing. We've got AAU basketball. We got all this. We're driving all over.
I do have a dream thing back here, by the way, that I would love to be able to do. It's not in my wheelhouse though, and it would have to be the kind of thing where like, no. I would love to open a restaurant.
Dude, do you know how much time that takes?
Exactly, and that's why I can't do it, and I'm not going to do it.
No, so
but like
18-hour days. You know what's funny? I was talking to a guy. I know we'll get to the lucre bet here in just a second.
Yeah.
So I was outside Picks the other day, about a week ago, and they have like guys that come by and like take care of like the floors, the windows, and stuff like that. It's like 8:00 at night. I was going out taking a walk in between newscasts, and guy goes, Moose. And I'm like, hey, what's going on? He's like, huge fan. Love you. You do a great job, this and that. That's not the point of the story, although it was very nice to hear. Right?
Just stop there. Right. Now we're going to break. No,
I was like, he was like, yeah, we're here. He goes, I work here. We clean the floors, right? We do in all kinds of buildings in New York City. We're here at night. This is one of the buildings that we have under contract to do. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'm like, you've been doing this your whole life? He's like, no, me and my brother owned a pizza place in Staten Island. We owned it for 15 years. I go, well, what happened to the pizza place? He goes, do you understand how much time it takes just to own a pizza place? Like, you are doing 16-hour days.
Yeah.
You're working 7 days a week. Like, it is an absolute grind. And like, listen, I like to cook. You like to cook. Like, owning a restaurant would be pretty cool and everything like that. But the time and the commitment that it takes, and it was kind of eye-opening. And you're not even talking about like a 5-star restaurant. You're talking about like a pizza joint. And he's like, now I work, 40 hours. Maybe sometimes I get overtime. I work 50 hours a week, whatever it might be. I go home. I get to enjoy myself when I'm home and my family. I'm not thinking about the job 24/7. I'm just telling you, I'm not telling you to give up on your dream. But that is a huge.
No, I mean, I'm not going to do it. Realistically, it would be the kind of thing where I would fund it. Yeah. Like, it'd be more of like, I've had an idea for a while, and I always, in the back of my mind, thought of like, if I ever had expendable money, that could be something I would consider diving into with the right people.
Yeah. We got to give Matt Doyle. We're here because he's following his dream.
Yeah.
As he just in our chat session, his wife deserves a lot of credit for allowing him to pursue his dream. Right.
Yeah. Matt was running Sirius XM Fantasy Sports.
To Better Sports Network. That's why you and I and everybody else here on Better Sports Network are with you on a day in, day out basis, because, Matt decided to gamble and said, I wanted to do something a little bit different. Was very successful at Sirius XM, an unbelievable producer, and said, I want to do something a little different. And I think there's an opportunity to launch a network, and that's why we've been with you for the last 6 months.
Yeah, I still remember. So 2013 is when I started at Sirius XM, right? So I started out as an update anchor, and I was mostly doing the quote unquote main channels, right? Like Sirius XM Fantasy at the time, I believe, was not doing. They were not doing specialized updates. They were like, you do the top of the hour update and then the specific channels, but we weren't specializing necessarily for Sirius XM Fantasy, right? And I remember when Deutsch, I was sitting in the area that it was, right? And it was me. I want to say it was like Matt Martucci, maybe Justin Termini, like Zig Fracassi. Like, we're all sitting in that area. And I remember Matt coming down. And actually, the email had come out first, so we had an idea. And then Matt came down and just talked about how he was going to start having people do like legit, just like average draft position stuff for their networks. And I remember like me and Matt Martucci right away were like, we love fantasy sports. Like, yes, please let us do this. Like, we're in. And the Dan Langs of the world and stuff like that jumped right in. And Martucci did, and Matt did a great job with just being like, all right, so this is what our network needs. Can you guys do this? Yes. If so, let's do it. He sent us like notes like it was his religion, which was amazing. So when he had left SiriusXM Fantasy and we knew each other for a while, I wasn't surprised that he was able to birth this. And I know you and I, Moose, and again, we're going off on a tangent, but you and I, Moose, were very excited that he wanted us to be a part of this, let alone ask us to do it.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, the drive, the commitment, the gamble. He's, there's so much about Matt that you believe in it, and he gives you the opportunity to kind of be creative as well. And so. Yeah, it works. When I first talked to Matt, and he said, might be an opportunity. We'll see. I talked to my wife, and Matt and I go back a long ways back to WFAN when he'd basically eat 3 baked potatoes for dinner, and that would be his dinner.
Oh man!
And he'd heat it up in the microwave. I'd be like,
was he putting butter on it?
No, it was no butter.
Good. That's like kind of healthy, that. That's considered paleo.
I understand when Matt would be in the eating season, and then there was the diet season. The eating season was winter once football began, and then then it was the non-eating season when we hit spring and baseball came around.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with him at all with that. I agree with it.
So
by the way, there is one thing that he like royally whiffed on though. And we love Matt. Justin Fields at number 8 and
it's terrible.
The way too early draft. If Justin Fields goes on to become the number 1 quarterback in fantasy next year, do you know how many times he's going? He won't. I know we're correct. Do you know how many times he is going to the social team just post these clips? He's been marking these down.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, of course. Yeah. He's gonna go back. Yeah, it was gonna be as I like to say, proud.
Yeah,
like a proud
horrible.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
All right, let's do it. So I'm gonna press the share button now. So my contest I'm gonna create because I'm high on Anthony Edwards tonight against the Golden State Warriors. Okay, a team they just played was the Sacramento Kings, high scoring Sacramento Kings, one of the top 5 scoring teams, Sacramento Kings. I'm gonna put it's a $2 contest. I'm gonna pick Anthony Edwards to score more points tonight than De'Aaron Fox. Okay.
Love that.
So I'm going to share the contest now. We are sharing. It has officially been shared. All right, everybody out there, you see it. It's been shared. So I think you just search my name now. I'm going to put it to the public feed. Yes. Awesome. I am done, it says. Boom. So it is live. So anybody watching us right now, if you want to compete with me, I have Anthony Edwards scoring more points than De'Aaron Fox tonight. If you believe in De'Aaron Fox, you go in there and search me. It's Keith IBSN is my tag on this app.
Love it. Byron Lambert, he's going to join us. Rosterwatch, Angel Fire. Talk a little National Football League. Get into the East-West Shrine Game players as well. So that's going to be taking place tomorrow. So we'll get into that too. We'll do that next. Moose and Keith with you. Keith's got a Lucra contest out there. You just mentioned it. Check it out. We've got some NBA plays, or at least we got one NBA play coming up.
I got one official. I have 2 or 3 that I'm monitoring.
I'm going to flush out the Super Bowl 57 MVP odds as well.
Yes.
To give you some thoughts on that before we bid you adieu. It's a good Wednesday program. I won't say it. Moose and Keith, Better Sports Network.
Better Sports Network is sponsored by Lucra.
Your 2023 prediction on the promo that we play was the Lakers was going to make the playoffs and beat somebody in the first round.
Hey, I hope we match up against Memphis.
That's not going to happen.
I hope we match up against Memphis.
And you'll get swept.
Ain't no way we get swept.
Sweep them. The Memphis Grizzlies would be swept. They would be laughing at them.
If the Grizzlies if the Lakers make the playoffs with AD healthy, Westbrook off the bench, and LeBron, everybody's healthy, they will beat the Memphis Grizzlies 100%.
We will be on Lucra betting on that game right
100%.
now. All right, Better Sports Network is sponsored by Lucra. Lucra is redefining friendly competition. Compete in the games you play and the sports you watch with Lucra. Download the Lucra app right now to create a contest and bet against your friends in as little as 15 seconds. Use the promo code BSM when you sign up to receive a free $5 to play with. Winning is fun, and beating your friends is even better.
Lucra is redefining friendly competition. Download the Lucra app today to challenge your friends and win money.
What you know about rolling down in the deep when your brain goes
Moose and Keith on Better Sports Network.
So we were talking about Super Bowl 57 MVP odds, right? Before we welcome aboard Byron Lambert, who's going to join us here momentarily. Listen, the value's not there. Jalen Hurts plus 110, Patrick Mahomes plus 130. It's become very, very much, unless it's basically a game in which you have a couple defensive touchdowns, or like we saw,
Chris Jones gets 3 sacks,
right?
Yeah.
And I don't think that taking 40-1 on Chris Jones. I mean, Hassan Reddick's interesting at 40-1 because we've seen what Reddick, who had 16 sacks in the regular season, what he can do. He obviously knocked Brock Purdy out of the game, tearing. He didn't do it on purpose, but timing it perfectly and that. But I think a guy that's got value is Miles Sanders at 22-1. I'll give you the reasons why, because I think Philadelphia has shown you they did it against the Giants, and I was completely wrong. We both like the Eagles against the 49ers, and clearly when the quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers and Purdy got hurt, and then Josh Johnson went out with a concussion, everything kind of went haywire in that game. So I do agree with what Sharapan had to say on Monday when he joined us. Take nothing from that game. I think it's fair. I just think you look at the game plan, not offensively, but you look at the game plan, not defensively, but you look at the game plan offensively. I think the Philadelphia Eagles, I'm a little concerned about the way A.J. Brown's running right now, dealing with that hip. I don't think he looked 100% healthy against the Giants. I don't think he looked 100% healthy against the San Francisco 49ers. Maybe that changes in the next couple of weeks. I think Sanders at 22-1 is a realistic MVP winner outside of the quarterbacks.
Yeah, so the last 6 times, the last 6 winners have been either quarterback 4 or wide receiver 2, right?
Right. Yeah, so it's been a majority of the time, a quarterback 1 award. It really has been. There are examples of it. Terrell Davis. There have been examples of running backs winning it. I think Philadelphia. You look at if they were able on the interior, and Lane Johnson. You can get into whether or not he's false starting or not, but the Eagles' offensive line is the best offensive line in the National Football League.
Yep.
I mean, it just is. When all 5 are healthy or all 5 are starting, they're the best line in the game. And I do think they're going to be, if they were able to run it on San Francisco, and they were able to run it early on San Francisco before that game got haywire, I think they're going to be able to run it in Glendale against the Kansas City Chiefs. I think the interior of the offensive line is too strong. And that's why I think Sanders at 22-1, I think he's setting himself up to have a huge Super Bowl 57.
So I like where your head is at. My one fear for that would be the fact that the Eagles really do spread it around those running backs.
They do.
And for the fact that, listen, I think here is the avenue, the road for Miles Sanders to be your MVP. Eagles win 24-17, 24-16, something to that effect, right? There are 3 touchdowns scored by the Eagles. 2 of them are by Miles Sanders. 1 of them is by Kenneth Gainwell or Boston Scott. Jalen Hurts throws for 195, runs for 45 or 50 yards, but doesn't account for a touchdown, and the Eagles win that game. That's the way. And Miles Sanders, by the way, would have 2 of those touchdowns. And let's say he goes 85 yards on the ground, 13 carries, and 2 touchdowns. He's your MVP. There you go.
Right. And here's where my logic would be is I think it's a game where they don't have to spread around. I think you saw Gainwell getting carries and runs because that game was over. And the Eagles realized the game was over. You saw Boston Scott getting a touchdown, the final touchdown before the end of the first half against the Giants. That game was over. And they realized the game was over. I think this is a game where you could squeeze the lemon when you look at Miles Sanders, where maybe they don't spread it around as much. Now he's got to hold on to the football. He's been a good dual threat running back. I listen, we're in the gambling space. I get it. It's a risk. I'm not telling you lock it down. There's no doubt that Miles Sanders is going to be the MVP of the league. I just think there's great value when you look at game situation and how it plays out, looking at Sanders at 22-1. Plus, if I'm Philadelphia, I probably want to try and shorten that game, even though I've got a great defense. I'm not going to try and go score for score with Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. I want to try and use it. I'm not 100% healthy and not 100% sure that Jalen Hurts is healthy. He didn't look particularly good throwing the football first half against San Francisco. I think Sanders at 22-1 represents some value.
I would also say that if you want to start crunching, there's ways to arbitrage this. Like you can 100% put a certain amount money down on Jalen Hurts, a certain amount on Miles Sanders, a certain amount on insert player, right? Like if you think that the Eagles defense is going to be crushing people, the quick math, if I were to do 10, 20, if I did, I think it would be like 25 on Reddick, like 25 on Sanders, and the rest on Jalen Hurts. I would have to do the math really fast to see if there's a way that you come out with your money. Again, there's arbitrage calculators that you can do this online. Again, I'm doing this really fast, Top Man. Maybe I'll do this after the show and try to come up with a real number for everybody tomorrow. Or if Jessica's still watching, hey, Jessica Brand, if you're still watching, feel free. Hop on that ARB calculator and let me know if there's a way to get a winner no matter what. If you go Hurts, Sanders, and Reddick as your MVPs.
Those would be the three. We're sharing a brain on that. That would be the three I'd be the most interested in from an Eagle perspective. Let's welcome aboard right now Byron Lambert. Rosterwatch, Angel Fire joins us now. Hey, Byron, Marc Malusis Keith Irizarry with you. Thanks for the time this morning. We appreciate it.
We got you, Byron?
Yes, sir.
Hey, Byron, how are you? Yeah, we got you loud and clear. Thanks for taking the time this morning. We appreciate it. Let's talk about some of the coaching hires in the NFL. Let's start with Sean Payton in Denver. What's your, do you think he's going to be able to turn Russell Wilson around after what was a really subpar season for the Broncos quarterback this past year?
I don't think so, but if there's anybody who can, I mean, I can understand why they're taking a crack at Sean Payton to try to resurrect his career, kind of renew what's going on with Russell Wilson. To me, the reason he was let go from the Seahawks is that they'd already made the evaluation that he was a diminished player, and I really believe that that's what we saw manifest this last season. So I don't know that at that point you can really fix Russell Wilson, but certainly I think you can clearly make the argument that if anybody can, it would be Sean Payton. I mean, there's always been some Drew Brees comparisons with Russell Wilson in terms of kind of the way they're built and the type of players they are. Obviously, I don't think Wilson's ever been the prolific passer that Brees is, but it's not it's not an insane leap of logic to try to draw that conclusion. So I am incredulous that we can see a lot of improvement there, but I can certainly understand where the Broncos were coming from. And look, Sean Payton in a vacuum is a great hire, so it'll be very interesting to see, what they're able to do with the quarterback position. You're seeing rumors about maybe him trying to bring a Taysom Hill or somebody like this along. And, obviously, quarterback carousel is going to be the big, big narrative this offseason.
You said in a vacuum for Sean Payton. Like, where do you sit on Sean Payton? Because I hear it from some people think he is on the line of like all-time great minds as head coaches, and some people think he might be a little overrated.
I think he's good. I don't think he's an all-time great, but he's certainly above average, as he has a very, very good resume. And look, the Broncos have pretty good defensive personnel, so I can understand why they would bring an offensive-minded head coach in, because that's really the side of the ball that needs some attention. And then you think of a player like a Javonte Williams, who, when healthy, has drawn some Alvin Kamara-ish comparisons. I think that in particular is a really potential good fit. So look, the Broncos are a first-class organization with a good history, pretty good roster. I think Sean Payton's a great hire. And look, a lot of the other teams weren't going to spend up for the kind of money that it was going to take.
What would you do if you were the Indianapolis Colts?
That's a great question.
Would you tear it down? I mean, would you just, get rid of and just start again? What would you do if you're Indy?
Well, look, I was actually just in Vegas at the Shrine Bowl talking to some Colts observers, and they're really of the mind. Chris Ballard, the GM there, really started off hot in his tenure there in Indianapolis, but feels like people have kind of cooled on him and the personnel and the roster construction there. So that does indicate that this may be more than a retooling. It may, in fact, be a rebuild. That said, I think in that division, I think you give it a year to see if you can become competitive in that division. I certainly think it's possible. So, look, with all the quarterbacks that are going to be potentially on the market this offseason, I think you probably give it a shot at retooling and see what you can do this year. And then if it doesn't pan out, then I'd say we're probably looking at a rebuild. But they got some good. Look, DeForest Buckner's still one of the best players in the league. I know it's only one guy on defense. You got Jonathan Taylor. He's a stud. So there are some good, still relatively young, talented guys there. I think you can try to build on. And look, the Colts were pretty competitive not too long ago. So I think you give it the old college try for this year, and if it doesn't work out, I think you're looking at a rebuild.
Stick there at pick number 4 then. What are you doing if you're Indy? If CJ Stroud is there, you taking him?
Well, I would. I like him a lot as a player. I really do. And I think it's going to be a thin quarterback class behind the very, very top guys. And you don't get that many opportunities to draft a young guy with that kind of upside. So I absolutely do think you would do that. But I'm not sure that's, a total. I'm not sure when you're getting a quarterback of that caliber, that high, that it falls into the bucket of a total rebuild. It might if things don't work out in the first year or two. But I kind of like that idea. You take Stroud, you put some pieces around him, and you kind of see what things are looking like. If it doesn't work, you've got a young quarterback you can kind of strip down and remodel the team around.
Byron, from your vantage point, when you look at Aaron Rodgers, we can get into where he's going to land, and we'll do that here momentarily, or where you think he's going to land. What do you think Rodgers is now as a quarterback?
8 out of 10, 8.5 out of 10. I mean, he's still pretty good. You got to say he's at least. I mean, he's probably still a top 10 guy. And this year might have been. Look, I mean, he's 40, 41. I mean, he's tracking on this Tom Brady career trajectory at this point, and I think pretty easy to argue that maybe he's lost a step, but he didn't have a lot of work to work with this year, so I'm not sure it's a completely fair evaluation. I think Aaron Rodgers is still a very good quarterback, and if you're a team that thinks you're in kind of a win now mode, if you can swing it financially, I think it's a move definitely worth making.
Where do you think he ends up?
Well, that certainly is a fascinating question at this point. I mean, it sure does seem like Devontae Adams left the Packers because he wasn't really thrilled about playing with Aaron Rodgers any longer, but I think that's an obvious potential landing spot that makes some sense. I mean, although I think the Raiders really have to improve the defense if they want to win, but and I don't know if they could really keep a Josh Jacobs if they were going to pay an Aaron Rodgers and a Devontae Adams. I mean, obviously, I think you can retool the backfield fairly easily, but that would be a big loss. So I'm not sure it would be clear he's going to a winning team if he does that. I mean, I would love to see Aaron Rodgers with the 49ers. He's from the Bay Area. I kind of thought, look, you didn't hear much talk about Brady potentially going to the 49ers before we heard the retirement news today. But I thought all along, especially after the Brock Purdy injury, hey, this could be that's a team kind of ready to win the Super Bowl. A quarterback away, I was thinking, it could be a Brady return, but I think that's evaporated at this moment. And so to me, Aaron Rodgers from the Bay Area, I could see he's mobile enough. I could really see him in a Kyle Shanahan system. I actually think the 49ers would be a dream fit for Aaron Rodgers.
Take us over to Houston for the Texans. DeMeco Ryans going to be the lead man there. What do you think he brings to the table?
Stud. I mean, stud. So, I mean, we'll see, right? I mean, the proof will be in the pudding, but certainly he's the guy. He's the kind of head coach that gets you very enthusiastic. He really demonstrates a lot of leadership qualities. I believe he's a type of coach that the players, can buy into. I mean, they had Lovie Smith there, who was kind of a defensive-minded guy this year, and it didn't necessarily work out. But I think Ryans brings a whole new energy to the team, and with somebody like Dameon Pierce, I guess you could make the case that they could kind of play defense and run the football, but that's really going to be ultimately about solving the quarterback situation if they want to get out of mediocrity. But you'd have to say, you'd have to say after Robert Saleh leaving for the Jets, I mean, I know the personnel is good on the 49ers defense, but I mean, did that defense get better under DeMeco Ryan? I mean, it was very good under Saleh as well, but I think they got better, which seems like a really Herculean task to do. So you'd have to say that you're impressed, and without a quarterback, I think the best thing that the Texans can do is try to play elite defense at this point, and while they build the offense out. So I like it.
I want to ask you about two quarterbacks that are already in the NFL. What do you think Trey Lance is, and do you think Zach Wilson is salvageable?
Well, these are great questions. Is when you look at the offseason quarterback carousel, it's a long, long list of potential guys in play, and certainly those are two that you have to talk about. Even though I think kind of logic dictates still early and fairly early, halfway into their rookie contracts, you would think there's a good chance that they kind of stay put for another season. But look, I mean, we don't know. Trey Lance is a prospect that coming out had a lot of Donovan McNabb, a lot of Steve McNair to his profile. I mean, a lot of people were thinking, well, if Josh Allen could make the leap, then maybe we can do it with Trey Lance. But the fact is, we don't know. We haven't seen enough. I mean, you licked your chops scouting him as a prospect just because of like the upside. And ultimately, I think, we heard all the rumors about how Kyle Shanahan was locked in on Mac Jones in that draft class. Now, ultimately, I think that they saw the upside of a Trey Lance, and you just said, we really can't afford to pass. Could this be a Lamar Jackson type of situation that's just a total franchise changer if you take him? But he just hasn't had the reps. We don't know. I think he's still got a lot of talent. I'd like to see them give him a chance. I mean, obviously the Brock Purdy injury, I think, opens the door back up and makes it probably more plausible that Lance sticks around and maybe you have a full-blown quarterback competition. So I'm still very smitten with the skill set that Trey Lance has, but the fact is we don't know, and he's coming off of like that Dak Prescott type of injury to the ankle and the lower leg. He's had 2 surgeries to try to repair the ligament now. And look, we've seen Dak, granted Dak a little bit older with a little more mileage on the tires and never the explosive athleticism of a Trey Lance, but it took him at least a full year to kind of look like himself again after that injury. So, I mean, there's a lot that remains to be seen with Trey Lance. And if I'm on the other side of things, if I'm another team that's quarterback needy and somehow Trey Lance is available for reasonable compensation, I'd take a very long, hard look at it.
Now, Byron, what about Wilson? Because if Keith or I were in the New York area, right, if we tell a Jet fan that, yeah, we still believe in Zach Wilson, we might have something thrown at our heads, right? So what about Zach Wilson, who you have seen has gotten reps, has not developed? Some would blame LaFleur in the offense. Others would blame, lack of leadership, accountability. Everyone tells you that he works hard. But what about Wilson here with the Jets?
I think he needs another chance. I mean, to me, I'm a little bit surprised by how we saw things unfold. It makes you wonder kind of what's going on behind the scenes. I know you said that you're hearing he works hard, but it does make you wonder if there's some discipline or, leadership type of issues, or, it's really interesting when you scout these players. I mean, they can have all the physical, the scouting in the NFL is like at best a 50-50 proposition, even in a league where they've poured billions of dollars into the scouting process and they got 100 years of history doing it. I mean, it's incredible how imperfect of a science it is. And what you learn after kind of being in the business for all these years is there's just a lot of non-quantifiable stuff that can happen even when you have a player with all the skills. It's like, do they, is it a mental thing? Is it a discipline thing? I mean, there's a lot that can kind of be going on that's unknown. So I think unless you're within the building, that's not entirely clear. But I think it's too early to give up on Zach Wilson. I mean, there was a reason that he was the second quarterback off the board. I think you could still make the argument he's got one of the absolute biggest arms in the NFL. So I'd like to see him. I would like to see him get another chance, especially with a team that's so good on defense. I think it's a good situation to try to develop a player like Zach Wilson, but certainly not encouraging, what we've seen so far. I saw the comparison. I mean, his stats, they match up pretty well to Jamarcus Russell early in the career, and that's ugly.
We're talking a lot about the young players. You're a big Dynasty League guy. What is it about Dynasty Fantasy Leagues you like?
I mean, we love scouting the rookies. There's nothing we love more than going to these off-season events and trying to uncover the next gemstone in the league, and just root. Most of these kids are such good kids. You're really rooting for their success. So that's what we love about Dynasty is one thing we've always been known for is being kind of like the rookie experts over at Rosterwatch, and we've always kind of had a penchant for making current or former NFL player comps to these rookies as they're coming out, and as a method to try to try to quantify the type of asset they might be in the league. And it's always very, very fun to see how your projections pan out. So that's why I love Dynasty.
Byron, I want to ask you, okay, so, who impressed you at the East-West Shrine game? And who do you think is going to be, the most impactful rookie when you're looking at fantasy next year?
Well, I think you got to kind of go with the sentiment of the NFL scouts on this one, even though I didn't get to see quite as much of them as I'd like to this week. But really, the NFL scouts were totally abuzz about Zay Flowers, the wide receiver out of Boston College. Not a real big guy, but he definitely stood out from the rest of the players in terms of he had, I don't want to call it an entourage because I feel like that's kind of got a negative connotation to it, but he was treated differently than everybody at the Shrine Bowl. You could tell that he was kind of considered the crown jewel of the skill players that were in Las Vegas this week. He really only practiced one time during the week. The rest of the week he was kind of like a non-participant. I think he was mostly there for interviews. But if you talk to the actual NFL scouts, they all think he's very much a potential first-round grade. So I'd say he's going to go at least round 1, round 2. In the draft. We know that draft capital correlates very much to the opportunities these guys get as young players. And, he had a little bit trouble catching the football the day that he did practice. So that concerns me. But to be fair, if you only get one practice with quarterbacks you've never played with before, it takes a minute to get the chemistry. Yeah, you're learning kind of that playbook on the fly at the event. So I think you give him a little bit of a pass for that. What was evident was that he was the most explosive and dynamic player in his routes out of actually a pretty good, decent group of wide receivers, a lot of guys to be interested in at the wide receiver position at the Shrine Bowl this week. So I think Zay Flowers is the one that's going to be kind of at the top of mind for people. But I'll tell you the guy that really stood out to me by the time I left is Tavion Thomas, the running back out of Utah. Very, 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 very much reminded me of Ramondre Stevenson 2 years ago at the Senior Bowl. I talked to some of the brass at the Shrine Bowl. They were making LeGarrette Blount comparisons. This is a guy that's like 6'1", 245, fairly agile and nimble at that size. I think most importantly at Rosterwatch, one thing we always look at when we're scouting these rookies that's just served us so well at the running back position is 3-down capability is just absolutely critical if you want to be an impact player in the league, but especially for fantasy. And I saw that with Tavion Thomas. I mean, this guy can catch the football. I think he's going to be able to block at that size. He's able to make plays in the running game. So I think he's a guy that you hear there's a little bit of off the field stuff with him that could push him down in the draft, but I think he's going to run pretty well at the combine for a big old boy like that. And we've seen success out of other players with a similar profile. So he's the one that I left really, really interested to see what happens with the big, strong running back, Tavion Thomas, out of Utah as he goes to the next level.
Byron Lambert, Rosterwatch, Angel Fire. Hey, Byron, we appreciate the time. You do a great job, great work. We appreciate it. And thanks for taking some time up for us here this morning. We'll do it again real soon.
Thanks so much, boys. Be well.
Fun stuff, Byron.
Well. He was great.
He was good. Stuff. Lots of good information there.
I love the scouting guys. They're just great.
So I got something for you. Well, we got a couple of minutes left.
Okay. What?
Tom Brady retired today.
Okay. Wait, he did?
Yeah, he did. I don't know if you saw the video or not. Tom Brady retired today.
Okay.
Tom Brady, clearly the best player that's ever played in the NFL. Most people would say so.
Yeah, probably.
Right?
Yeah.
Michael Jordan, typically most people say he's the best.
Yeah.
Wayne Gretzky, most people say, is the best.
Yep.
Right? Who's the fourth player on that Mount Rushmore of team sports? Because you go individual, like Serena Williams is the greatest women's tennis player. Most people believe Tiger Woods is the best golfer, although there are some other arguments, right? Most people believe that, like, Usain Bolt is the greatest runner of all time. Most people, you know, like, you go on and on and on, right? But baseball, and Ernie writes Babe Ruth, if you don't care about PEDs, it's bonds, right? But most people care about PEDs, so they won't do that. Like, Willie Mays would like to have a conversation with you, Babe Ruth, if you're going to do that. So I don't know if there's a clear baseball guy. So I have one. But I wanted you to think for a second first.
I think he hasn't accomplished anything as a team, though. They haven't won. I mean, the best individual player is most talented is Trout. Then you look at Shohei Ohtani with the Angels, but they haven't won anything.
Right. So I think that winning would matter in this.
Yeah, I think winning factors in. Yeah. No doubt.
Lionel Messi. Am I living in the moment because he just won the World Cup?
No, that's a good one. You know, that's
right?
a great one.
Every soccer person was telling us, and you and I are novices to it, like, we enjoy it, but everyone who knows the history of the sport said that this World Cup put him over the hump and made him the greatest soccer player of all time.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. There's no clear answer in baseball. I like that. That's a good one. I like that. Good, man. Look at that.
I was like,
that's great, and that is a great talking piece, though. That really is. I love that. Yeah, I would have to say Messi. I'm coming from it, as you mentioned it. Like, I really don't follow soccer.
Right, we're coming from it as we're trusting
what they've accomplished. I'm not downplaying their accomplishments. I don't come out and say soccer stinks. I just don't follow it. I just don't. It doesn't. He's an unbelievable player.
Yep,
unbelievably accomplished for what he's done. I think he was the second team sport athlete ever to earn over $1 billion.
Amazing.
I mean, think about that for Lionel Messi. That's a good one.
From an individual standpoint, clearly Michael Phelps could be on the on this list.
Yeah,
but again,
I
think individual a little different than the team sport.
There's nobody in baseball,
right?
I mean, the guy in baseball would be Shohei.
Yeah,
eventually down the line.
15 years from now, if he's still pitching and hitting, and maybe he at least won one World Series, you know, with the New York Yankees, let's say, like, if he wins one World Series, then then I think he would enter this conversation.
Well, think about, like, if you're in a certain age, like, of just kind of contextualizing what you just said, like, you've had the privilege of watching Brady, Michael, LeBron, Magic,
Gretzky,
Larry, Gretzky, Mario Lemieux,
yes,
Sidney Crosby,
Ovi,
Lionel Messi. Like, think about, you saw the end of Pele, who just, you've seen, you've lived through the steroid era of Major League Baseball. Like, it has been an amazing, like, last 30 plus years when you look at professional sports stateside.
Yeah, and I do not think that any of these sports against stateside are going anywhere. Like, the baton will be passed. That, listen,
10 years from now, we'll be breaking down pickleball, right?
Right?
Sports.
Listen, if you're a fan of history, I actually think that you should be rooting for the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl next week. If you're a fan of history, because I think you want Patrick Mahomes to be the next guy to take us into the next generation of winning and greatness.
For a reason we'll explain on another show, I'm not a fan of history when it comes to the Super Bowl. Go Eagles, baby! Fly, Eagles, fly!